Well, it's going to be a short kind of live stream here. Kind of wanted to do something different. This has been kind of a monumental moment in my life. Some of you probably won't care, and that's completely fine. This is just for me to more document kind of what I've been through the past year. I'm just going to do a live on this, and if people want to look at the VOD or the log or video of that, that's completely fine. Um, this past year for me has been absolutely horrific. For you that don't know, on either channel, I got hurt when I was working on the tugboats. So I work for a company out of New York, and unfortunately, it's kind of like a freak accident. So I was doing an engine round, and I decided, oh, we got to do this, got to check the pressures, make sure there's no any oil leaking, go into the forepeak, and not to bore you with the complete details. And I decided, you know what? Like, God just doesn't like me that day. And when I felt like boat was rocking, hit my right side of my hip, hit into the handrail going up to the next, like, into that forepeak, the electronic room. And I decided, you know what? Like, I'm in pain, but I'm not too bad. So, hey, shit happens. It's a bone bruise, right? That's the worst thing I'm thinking. I get off the boat, I think 2 days later, and it was weird. My hip wasn't feeling right. Wasn't feeling too good. And I decided, like, okay, like, I need to go get this checked out because just something's not right. Because about a week after I got off the boat, I woke up with shooting pain going up my complete back and just in unbearable pain. And I was like, something's not right here. Because this, if this was just a knock or a bruise or a sprain, something's not right here. So I get an x-ray, and long story short, they find a fracture in my right hip. Now, they did not know that they'll later find out after getting an MRI. I also had a very severe labral tear. And try to do physical therapy to see if I could avoid surgery. Didn't want to go through that. But throughout this whole process, due to being a mariner, I'm kind of beholden to the Jones Act of 1920. You guys have probably heard of that throughout this whole process. It was a nightmare. The company that I was working with, I'm just going to say it publicly, Rheinauer, the company I was working with in Rheinauer, the people, I needed an identification number to get the process started, so I wouldn't be the one, at all these expenses, because I did get hurt on the job. And instead of doing the absolute right thing, they just didn't answer me. And it was like, email each week, hey, need an hey, need this number, hey, need this number, hey, need this number. And about like 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks time, I finally get my number, can get my, MRI eventually done, taken care of. But the company made me feel like I just wasn't wanted. I wasn't taken care of. They made me feel, I'll be honest with you, they treated me like a piece of shit. Which was surprising because, like, when growing up with this company, with my father, I heard nothing great about it. I thought it was a great company, and people complain. Oh, there's no big deal. People on the boats complain. Yeah, they're just complaining. It's no big deal. I hate to say it, there was a lot of merit to the situations that they talked about. There was a lot of merit to the complaints that they had. And I apologize if this video is going to be a little bit rambly, but I kind of want to, explain in detail everything I went through because it was such a difficult year for me. I'm going to make this very clear. The Jones Act, I got paid $1,260 a month while injured. If I was getting proper workers' compensation like you would in a real job, it'd probably be around $4,000 or something like that because there's like, yeah, around 4,000 is about 75% of what you net, I believe, or somewhere around that. It would have been far more substantial. Due to the Jones Act, which is good in some ways because it protects Americans, like the American ports, American workers at work, but it's also bad in others because a lot of that shit's outdated. Now, kind of going through this process, other companies actually will pitch in money to kind of help you, like, hey, like, you're not going to survive off $1,260 a month. That is what it is. But for me, the only reason I was able to sustain and live in a really comfortable lifestyle is, and knock on, I save a lot of money. I have a ton of money saved. So while I was virtually poverty level, I'm not going to get that. The virtually poverty level through that earnings, due to having hundreds of thousands saved, I was fine. But it was a very frustrating process because I had I was in the process of buying a house while I got hurt. I was in the process of doing a lot of different things. I actually had a wedding. I was going to get to marry to the love of my life that I had to we had to push it back until this next April that's coming up because I wasn't going to be able to walk. Um, anyways, I apologize for this is going to be rambly as hell. Anyways, kind of going through this process, you know, there was accusations levied against me that I wasn't communicating and I wasn't talling and stuff like that. Um, it got to the point. Um, it got to the point, and this is where I kind of like almost lost it on him. It got to the point when I was going through the process and I was notifying them, kind of updating them every week. I constantly told them when I had my surgery eventually on March 2nd of this past year, which due to the holdups, whether that be through the company I worked for or the insurance agency, they like to blame each other when I talk to each of them. So I don't know, to be completely honest and transparent. They're both at blame if I'm going to be real. But due to their process, dragging their feet, not getting back to me, I got injured in July of 2022. I didn't get surgery until March 2nd of this past year. And when I had that surgery, and this is kind of a key moment that really made me realize that the company that I'm working for truly did not give a fuck about me. I let them all know March 2nd is the surgery. Went into surgery, went absolutely fantastic, but due to everything and how intensive it is getting like a labral tear and like bone spurs all cleared up, it takes 4 to 6 months, and usually the procedure even said expect maybe 6 months to 12 months before you're completely 100%. So my doctor, Dr. Wilk out of Foxborough, fantastic doctor. Could not recommend him enough if you need anything orthopedic done. One of the best doctors I've ever worked with. He was just very realistic. And I told them repeatedly, hey, it's 4 to 6 months. Even had doctor note explaining that. And, I had the surgery on March 2nd. The guy that was dealing with my case within the company I worked for, he called me on March 3rd at noon. No, sorry. He called me on the day of the surgery at noon when my surgery was scheduled. I didn't answer for obvious reasons because I'm knocked out. And he calls me the next day. Oh, I just want to call you before surgery, making sure everything is good and you're prepared and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, I'm just going to call him Stooge 1. Stooge 1, I've already had surgery. I'm doped up right now. What are you talking about? He's like, oh, you had surgery? Oh, no, I didn't know that. And then he looked at it. He's like, oh. And, to some people, that's not that big of a deal. It's a clerical error or something like that. I'm not the only employee. But it was like kind of a theme throughout my whole process and what kind of led me up to resign from my position. Because it just seemed like this company just didn't keep in check. All they wanted was constant updates, which I didn't have to give you. Like, if you tell your employer, right, that you have surgery in March, right, what in the fuck can I tell you? Week to week. Like, oh yeah. Yeah, so I can't walk, I can't hobble, and I can't walk. Like, what do you want? What's the day-to-day you want me to update you on? And, like, in New York state law says, once a note is given, once a date is given, your employer you do not have to talk to your employer. So, I'm going to fast forward a bit, go through it, update them a couple weeks later while I'm not doped up on painkillers. And like, hey, this is what it's looking like. It's looking like a 4 to 6 month progress. I will give you updates. And I always did. I always gave updates. Now, the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, though, is apparently they didn't, the people up above didn't relay that I was telling, or the people I was dealing with didn't relay to the people above that I was actually communicating with it. And they like to blame me. So, about a few months later, I get a call, I get an email at like 11 in the morning, saying from the vice presidents of Rheinauer saying, hey, like, we need to have a conversation. Now, mind you, I'm currently doing physical therapy. I'm recovering from surgery. I'll fully admit my sleep schedule is completely out of whack, right? When you don't have a set, dedicated job and a regular routine schedule, and whether it be due to just sleeping through the pain, which I had to do quite a bit, or just, being a night owl, which I tend to be. So I woke up at like 2:15 or something like that. So yeah, he messaged me at 11 a.m. saying, we need to have a meeting and you need to call me before the end of 2 p.m. today. Before the end of 2 p.m. today. And I woke up at 2:15. I messaged the guy and I was like, I called the Stooge 1 and I was like, yeah, I saw the email with CC. He's like, what's going on? I was like, oh, well, Bert, I don't even care at this point. He wants to talk to you. Who in the fuck emails someone at 11 in the morning while they're out on injury due to surgery, getting hip surgery that takes 4 to 6 months, but with most people 6 to 12 if there's complications? Who in the fuck messages somebody at 11 in the morning to have a phone conversation at 2 p.m. like I don't have a fucking life or I don't have other things going on like physical therapy? Like, what? So I'm getting annoyed at this point. And then I get another email, saying like, oh, well, you're not communicating and you're not doing this and yada, yada, yada. And I messaged my doctor because at this point I'm kind of fed up. I said, I want an extremely detailed note explaining to these people exactly what's going on. Because like in my head, right, I'm getting frustrated, but I'm like, maybe in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe they just don't understand how serious of an injury this is. Because like when you get hurt in the hip, right? And when I was working with DEG, who's my co-host on my podcast, he can attest to this. Like your hip's everything. Like sitting, standing, sleeping. I was never ever comfortable. And it was one of those situations for me that I was always in a constant state. Oh, what's going on?
Speaking of the devil himself.
Hold on. God damn it. I was in a flow. Son of a bitch. God damn it. Hold on. Now I got to get the headset out so it's not shitty audio. I can't hear you for a second. So we're going to do an unboxing here.
He got the headset.
Anyways, I think when it came down to it, I was getting surgery. I can't hear him, by the way, so if he's talking, just normal white man ignoring a black guy. When it kind of comes down to it, is the situation that I'm dealing with is it's just I wanted a detailed doctor's note, and the reason I wanted the detailed doctor note because I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe they don't understand. Maybe they don't understand the gravity of the surgery that I just went through. So, anyways, I went to my doctor to the point that he called me. Get in there. That's a tight hole. That's what she said. But she called me, and okay, let's see if this works. He called me. Excuse me. And he's like, we already gave you a note. Your employer should. That's all you really need to know. Like that's all they really need. So let me switch this over. Elgato, right? Can't hear anything. That's great. Where the hell is it? Huh. That's weird. Yeah, for whatever reason, this is not working. It's probably because I got to refresh it if I was going to do it. But, let's see. Box 2, box 3. But, so I get the detailed doctor note. He said, hey, you really don't have to give them this. You don't need to do this. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, but I want to do this to kind of the principle. And I can't hear you. This is so fucking
I didn't say anything.
Come on. What is going on here? Did I mute the motherfucker? All right. You're just gonna be nice background because I have to restart. I'd have to restart if I did this. So you'll be a nice background picture. But anyways, anyways, I kind of do the note, yada yada yada, and I send it over to my former employer, and I the guy that wanted that nice 3-hour notice meeting, right? I sent it him, to the stooge I was dealing with, and then the head of HR. Because it's like, obviously there's some things that are not being translated here and lost in the translation that maybe you guys don't understand this process. Maybe you guys don't understand what's kind of going on. So send him over the doctor's note. And I get an angry email from the guy that I was dealing with, Stooge 1. Saying, "You're the worst employee I've ever seen trying to get back from injury. You probably didn't even get hurt on the job." And mind you, he wrote this in email form with all of those idiots, all of them CC like a fucking moron. And I was like, wow. Trying to say that I wasn't communicating, I wasn't doing this. And I'm mad. I'm pissed. And I'm like, okay. And I typed something on my phone. I'm like, "You're a fucking piece of shit." And I deleted it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be tactical about this. Because I already know I've been communicating with this stupid motherfucker for a long, long time. So I go through my email. He sent that nice defaming of character about me in email form at 11 p.m. on a Friday night. I sent him an email Saturday at 7 in the morning. And I was the one who quit Lavarius because I was mistreated poorly. At 7 in the morning. Explaining the whole situation that I have communicated to you. I have communicated to you throughout this whole process. I sent a 33-page PDF with every single correspondence between me and Stooge 1. 33 pages. I referenced that I sent you bills that I was getting. I sent you debt collectors that were coming to my mail, which, by the way, it's workers' comp, it's Jones Act. You have to pay this. I'm not paying this. I got hurt at the job. Constant notices that never got an email response. In fact, he sent me 5 emails in the span of a year. 5. No, I'm sorry. 7. 7 emails in the span of a year. 5 of them, that's what it is. 5 of them. All they said in the subject title was "call me" and his phone number. And every single time, as my phone records, what I went into, proves I did so. And I would even respond to some of those emails. He sent me emails, and the 2 other ones that he did were like one-word things, and like one-sentence things, and just in and out. I sent him 3 times, 21 emails throughout this process. And I showed to the upper management, who thought I wasn't communicating, that he was an incompetent, lying piece of shit. And it was just kind of like, I was mad. I was very furious. And I'm going to have to say this. I'll call him Stooge 2. So Stooge 1 and Stooge 2. Stooge 2 was a guy that works within the department with the HR department. I don't care at this point. I'll just say it. And he was a guy that I was dealing with throughout the process. He tried to say the same thing. That, oh, well, Paul never communicates. He never does this. You know what I do? Like I said, I'm calculated. I create a 15-page PDF. You know, in a span of the 2 years. In 2 years, he has only sent me 1 email before the injury. He has never emailed me throughout this process. I sent him 14 emails since my injury and only got a response in 4 of them. And you know what? He didn't acknowledge anything. it wasn't helpful throughout this whole process. It was extremely frustrating where I have two stooges that can't do their own job right, trying to blame me that I'm not communicating. Well, it seems like that's not the case. But this is the interesting thing that kind of came into it and happened into this, right? So I send that email, right? You know who calls me Monday, sounding all... Where's the third stooge? You're looking at him because I dealt with this fucking company. I think, like, he calls me Monday. And he's like, 3 p.m. Really, really demur, really like, I didn't mean it like that. Didn't mean it like that. Didn't mean it like that? Like, what? You didn't mean to defame my character and say that I didn't get hurt on the job, that I'm trying to ham up a certain... Which, by the way... I'm on the fastest timetable to come back through, to the point that my doctor's like, it's actually like, it went extremely well. And I took physical therapy extremely seriously compared to most people. I was like, so it was kind of funny, like this fucking buffoon is trying to tell me, oh, I'm just like this. And like, I have to make note, I've said it before, and I don't want to make this a crying thing. It was 1,260 a month. I made that in fucking 2 days before. 2 days of work. 2.5 days of work. That's what I make. Why in the fuck would I want to stay making that little money? It made no sense. I apologize, I'm ranty, but so he says the phone call, all this stuff, like, oh well, I didn't mean it like that, we just gotta, we want to get you back to work and stuff. Like, he sounded this, and I told him, and this is something I never received. I said, listen, you defamed me in front of administration and said things that were not true. I expect an email of apology, CCing both of them to acknowledge that, hey, you were out of line. He's like, oh, I'll see what you can do. So when I said that, I think bells went off in his head like, oh shit, we can't put that in writing. So he calls me 5 minutes later. He's like, oh, yeah, I just looked into something. Like, are you going to your physical therapy appointments? It seems like you have been refusing service or something. Like some in my opinion, made up shit. I think he just called something and try to get something going with the insurance adjuster I was dealing with, which the insurance adjuster was like, I don't even want to get into that. They were ridiculous. They didn't even get back to me. It would take months. But I'm saying this, and I was like, no, Stooge one. No, Stooge one. What are you talking about? I've been on a 2-week wait list because the guy went on vacation and all the appointments were filled. I didn't refuse service. I have an appointment here. So I was like, okay, all right. Let's play your fucking game. So I go into it. I get a note from the facility saying, no, I did not refuse service. I'm scheduled. There was a wait list. I even got a note from my physical therapist saying that he went out on vacation. Like, okay, I'm good. Let's clear. I'm clear. And this was about 2 weeks later. Energy was a little different, I could tell. I could tell he was digging for things. So I get a call from Stooge 1 and Stooge 2. Because he has to be present because he's a part of HR. And he's like, oh, well, we looked into it, and apparently you've missed 10 physical therapy appointments. Now, in my head, right? What? No. I was like, no. Because anytime I missed, and this is advice I'm going to give anybody, right? Because this is what I did. So I have a bunch of files back here with all the documentation. Anytime you miss anything, go get a doctor's note if you're sick. Do not be like, oh, I was sick, I wasn't feeling. Make sure you get documentation. Oh, like that's something I've always been Bible about. Get documentation. Do not fuck yourself in that way. There was documented, I know, twice I had to get a doctor's note. I went to the facility sick the first time, and this is technically the third time. I went to the facility sick one, and they told me, and they turned me around because of, after the pandemic, they're like, you cannot come here sick. Like, if you have symptoms, you cannot come here. Like, this is a health hazard. Because I actually kind of got a talking to, like, you can't come here sick. You cannot come here sick. So then I would have to call the facility, and then I would get a doctor's note because I'll be honest with you, I didn't trust, not having documentation saying I'm sick. And then I knew another appointment I didn't cancel. My physical therapist canceled because he had a family emergency. He called me, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. Go deal with your thing. But I'm like, 10 appointments. I'm like, even if you include the 4, like, I know I didn't miss 6. I was like, what? Because I've been going, like, every week or every other week, depending on the scheduling. And I was like, within the phone call, wheels are spinning. I'm like, so what dates are you talking about? And he's like, oh, this date. And then Stooge 2, the part guy in the HR, it's like, oh, well, we'll send you over the email full of this. We're going to give you an ultimatum. You can either resign or get fired. Because you've missed 10 physical therapy appointments, and people like that, we would usually fire. But out of respect of your family working here for over 40 years, we're going to give you those options. Okay. Now, I'm not stupid. I'm far from it. I know if I say, oh, well, just fire me, they have a letter immediately ready to go to send over. So I'm like, hey, can you send me over that paperwork and, documentation? I wasn't even mad at the phone. I was just in disbelief, but I was, like, very cordial. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, really thinking about it, I'll resign. That's what I'll do. I'll resign. Like, oh, well, make sure to send over a letter of resignation to the head of HR, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, yeah, just send me over that information about the physical, because I want to look into that. It's like, okay, yeah, no problem. They sent it over. You know, it took me 2 minutes to make them realize that it wasn't even the right fucking person. You know, there was 2 appointments on May 25th. One in the 8 in the morning. And then one at 6 p.m. Now, listen, hey, I'm not an expert in physical therapy, but generally, you don't have 2 appointments on the same day. 1 and 8, like, it's not like going to the gym, lifting weights. Like, yeah, I'm going to do a 2-a-day set, man. I'm going to go in the morning and the day. That's not how physical therapy works, throughout my experience. And I've had multiple, like, with the ACL, MCL tear, I've had injuries, broken legs. Like, that's not how physical therapy works. And do you know, those idiots, the appointments they got weren't mine. There were appointments that were formed way before my surgery that were completely canceled. Now, to be fair, the place I was going to at Foxborough messed up and sent over documentation, but it even said, like, these were canceled, these were never had. So they were trying to fire me, to not see a physical therapist, and not to go appointments that I never was scheduled with and never even fucking met. I called him like 5 minutes later. I was like, hey, Gary, Stooge 1, you have a problem here because I've never seen this person. I've never even had these appointments. He's like, well, what do you mean? Can you prove that? And he's like, that? He's like, well, that completely changes everything because, like, if you only miss 4 appointments and 3 of them being sick, I was like, hey, Stooge 1, I have all the documentation proving that I, sick and I was turned away. So, yeah, I can get it. Long story short, the lady that's head of the head of that department for physical therapy when it comes to, like, workers' compensation cases like this, she was out. So I told him, like, she's out on vacation. It's going to be, it's going to might take a day or 2. But unfortunately, she was in, like, on a Tuesday. Got the letter. Sent that letter verifying that those appointments never were actually scheduled or never were scheduled for me. Sent that shit at 9:10 in the morning. I got an email 3:10. Phone call from Stooge 1, like, oh my god, like, this has never happened before. We've never dealt with anything like this. Like, we've never, never been this big of a... Like, he was stuttering and nervous. Because throughout this whole process, right, he defamed my character, saying that I'm not trying to get back right. I'm not communicating. Time and time and time again, proving that he's lying and he's trying to make himself look better because he can't do his own jobs. He lied about me not informing him of medical bills when in the email correspondence that I sent over, that 33-page PDF, that, yes, every single time I have a notice, I have a fucking scanner right there with a printer, scanned it over, I'm not an idiot. Had all this document, and that was the peculiar thing to me. It's like, why lie at that point? It's all in paper, dude. It's all like email chain. Like, were you that arrogant? Did you think you were that superior? I wouldn't look into it? Did you think you were the smartest motherfucker in the room that, like, oh, well, he'll never look back? It saves the emails. It saves what you send. Like, what? So he's like, oh, we've never done that. So, and then he's like, well, so we're going to have to rescind that ultimatum. And I told him, I said, yeah, no shit. Because you have nothing. And when this is something I did do. I talked to a lawyer, and I had really good correspondence with the lawyer saying, like, you can go after them legally if you want to. Because, like, throughout this whole process, and I sent him everything. And this is the thing that my employer doesn't realize. I already went through my call logs, too. Which, email is kind of, like, the proper way to have any etiquette. Because even with a phone call, right, it's going to be like, oh, well, this phone call is 55 seconds. This phone call was a minute. Can you prove that they picked up? Can you prove that it wasn't a voicemail? There's a lot of variables. So, like, kind of email, talking with the lawyer and talking with other experts, like, that is the proper line of communication when you're doing stuff and dealing with stuff of this matter. Because you need to have some type of, like, buildup of evidence. That's the big thing. So I told him, I was like, yeah, I mean, like, no shit. And, you know, I'm not going to go into the complete details I had with the meeting with him and them. Like, with him and the other people from the company in the same phone call, I said, you know, like, if you guys terminated me, I was going to go after you for wrongful termination. And I had a guy willing to do it pro bono. You know, I'll say that from the point of them trying to offer me an ultimatum and going through this whole process, I was like, you know, like, I'm going to get right. I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to go to, like, the work. It's like a work conditioning type program that I do now in Taunton, Mass. to kind of get right. I've been doing that, like, 5 days out of the week for 4 to 6 hours a day. Trying to get ready to get back to work. And, you know, throughout this whole experience, it was eye-opening. For a lot of reasons, because I went to this company thinking, like, this is the greatest company I'll work for. I have nothing but positive companies. They're going to take care of you. They're going to treat you well as a human being. And it just wasn't the case. I was treated like shit. I was lied about. Constantly insulted. Condescending attitudes I'm dealing with on the phone. Like, when I'm out injured, can't sleep, struggling, like, few hours of sleep, on painkillers, trying to get by, and just to be completely honest, the depression. I'll be honest, that's the something I had to battle mentally, because I like making money. I like working because it's like a reset. It's like I enjoy working hard. It fucks with you mentally on a lot of levels, because my whole life I've never been out of work like this long due to an injury. You know, outside of the other health shit, but like with this type of injury, it debilitated me. Couldn't walk. Couldn't stand. Couldn't sit. Couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. Like, there was points, and I remember we talked about this, DG, is like, I can only sit for a certain amount of time, because then it's like starts flaring up. So then I stand up, and then after a certain set of time, that flares up. Then I lay down, and then a certain time, that flares up. Like, I was trying to do I was trying to do personal training before this injury to kind of get back into shape, so I get ready to walk, you know, marry my beautiful wife and have a good wedding time. And it was, you know, it was just an eye-opening experience that, like, this company truly did not fucking care. Did not care in any sense. And the funny part is, I'm a union company. And I messaged my union representative, and I called him, and he's like, oh, there's not much we can do. We don't really have a fund like that. I'm like, then, like, why am I paying you dues? Why am I contributing to anything you fucking do?
One second, Cap.
It was accumulation of the company treating me like a piece of shit, them lying, and then the union just not doing anything for me, saying, oh, we can't do anything for you. Well, you take fucking a good cut of my paycheck. Like, could you give me at least a few hundred, at least help out pay for rent? Like, yes, I have savings, but fuck, man, I want to go buy a house here soon.
Cap.
But
Cap,
it was just, right? It was a very, very difficult year on me mentally. One
second.
1 second?
Yeah. Guys, if you guys looked at some of our live streams back in 2022, you guys will be able to see that Cap could not sit during the streams. He would have to get up out of his chair, go walk off, because he actually could not sit in the chair at all. Like, the guy was like struggling in like intense amount of pain. He couldn't focus during. You guys that know that have been watching the Talking Shit podcast, you could tell when Paul was in his greatest amount of pain, or sometimes he would have to get up and stand behind his chair, or sometimes he would have to try to move his chair back so that he could try to relieve pressure on his hip joint. Like, it's like we have footage of our podcast episodes going back over a year now, where you could just tell the dude just couldn't function at all.
I just turned on the speaker. I think because I had to reset the StreamYard. That's like these work. It's just it has to reset. But it was a very difficult year for me where I couldn't do anything. Like
Cap does have a small bladder, but that wasn't the problem.
Like it was just a very depressing situation, just confounded with issue after issue after issue. Company treating me like shit, and it made me think. I'm like, after this year, is this a company I really want to have a future in? Is this a company I want to work for? Now, little do they know, I've upgraded my licensing since I've been out. I've done other things to kind of further my licensing and, allow different opportunities to be accessible to me. And, it's been relatively mundane since that whole debacle and confrontation where I called them out, and then they had to rescind that ultimatum that was offered to me. But the final straw, the final nail in the coffin. I got a debt collection notice in the mail regarding a bill I sent over 5 fucking times. 5 times. And it's all documented. 5 times. I sat there, looked at it. I was so furious, and I just started laughing. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Sent over an email saying to Stooge 1, how is this not paid for when there's been 5 email notices regarding this? Send it to him on Saturday. I don't get a call till Tuesday. Oh, I thought I paid for it. I thought I had a copy sent. Apparently I didn't have a copy. You didn't pay for it because you don't know how to do your fucking job. I was like, you know what? Done. I'm all set. I'm good with this shit. I don't need a company that treats me like shit, that has been insulting me throughout the whole process, that they've never even gone through themselves. And you know what the funniest part about this is? People have been leaving there. People say the morale is low on the boats. And they wonder, oh, why is the morale so low? Why do people not like it working? Because you guys are assholes. You guys treat people out like when they're injured like pieces of shit. Because I know for a fact, because I've talked to several people within the company that told me, yeah, when I was out on injury, or oh yeah, when my baby was being born, I almost had a lien put on my house because the bills weren't being paid when I constantly send it through insurance. Like, what? I'm like, is this what I want to work for? And no, I work in the I work as a mariner. I have a captain's license. I work as a mariner on the boats. I work on tugboats and stuff like that. Like, we kind of do assist work. I was working on an ATB, so we transported like 100,000 barrels of whether it be jet fuel, gas, ethanol, whatever product, generally up and down the East Coast. But yeah, it was just kind of like, I'm like, the debt wasn't that much, right? The debt wasn't that much money. It was the principal at that point. And then I get a phone call saying, oh, I paid it. Oh, I paid it. Like, oh, you paid it? I said, yeah. I said, oh, well, like a fucking retard. Yeah, we'll call your, like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to imitate what he did, right? So he's like, I'm going to add it to the next check that we send you. I'm like, yep, $55.45. And this is one of the smaller bills, by the way. This is one of the smaller bills. It's just the principal at this point, because there was thousands and thousands of dollar bills I received that I've constantly sent over that have not been paid for yet. But I'm like, man, I'm good. This is not a company I want to work for. Treated me like shit, insulted me, saying I'm the worst employee they've ever seen come back, even though my doctor's like talked to Dr. Wilk today. I got the clear fit for duty. And I got a clear fit to duty to start working on September 4th. I'm gonna be healthy here soon. I'm gonna be completely clear to go. And I'm in the process. I'm not gonna say much here publicly. I already have a job lined up where I can just, you know what, because I've been in this whole process. Enough. So I had some preliminary discussions, and with my licensing, I can go wherever. I can get jobs. I'm not really worried about that. And I'm not gonna keep working with a company that makes me feel like a piece of shit and treat me like I'm less than. This year has been difficult for many reasons. I've been dealing with a lot of anger issues, that I don't really try to take on anyone. I just go outside and throw shit all the time.
I mean, you've seen Cap just get up, cut streams off.
What's that?
I mean, we've seen you cut off streams, just walk off,
Yeah, I mean,
you definitely been shorter.
It's been rough, man. It's
Yeah.
been a rough fucking year, and you know what? Sent in that letter of resignation today, and I told them exactly how I felt. I told them, and I'll kind of allude to what I said. Actually, you know what? I'll say the last paragraph here, because a lot of the other stuff I'm not going to get into, but I'll say this because it is how I feel about this company. I understand that I am simply one person, so this probably won't even matter to you. But the reality is that I have heard nothing but negative things about this company since day one. I will admit that I initially didn't believe any of it, knowing that I spent the vast majority of my life hearing what an incredible company this is, but after experiencing so much of the negativity myself, it's rather hard to argue the point. The general consensus is that this company doesn't care about their employees. There's been issues with medical bills being paid while they're out on specific injuries, and Stooge 2 comes off rather condescending and disrespectful. Ironically enough, I have had to endure every single one of these issues. That's how it is. So I think for me, just overall, whether it take me 4 to 6 weeks, because there's some actually additional things I'm going to throw onto my license before I get back out there, but I'll do what I have to survive. I have a lot of job experience, but I'm going to be going back into my field really soon. I don't need this, man. As you know, when I worked for the old company, right? I was never this upset. I was never this angry. They treated me like fucking gold. We had reviews, yearly reviews. I got 5 out of 5 star every fucking time. And I had the captain of my boat, let me steer the vessel and, do assist jobs and kind of, a lot of stuff. I would work overtime, never complain. They treated me like gold. And I feel like I left that company because there's going to be a little bit more pay here at this new one. And it kind of goes to show, sometimes, man, money's just not everything.
Not all money's good money, Cap.
Yeah, not all money's good money. And I learned that the hard way. And it's an eye-opening experience. I mean, it's been a fucking shitty few years working for this company for a multitude of reasons. And the company morale's low, and until they change things, it's not going to change.
You know what I find very interesting, Cap? And this is the part, like you said earlier in your diatribe. You have family that's been working there for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that, with nepotism being an issue in American companies, that they would treat you with some modicum of respect, being that your father is such a respected figure within the company over the past 4 decades.
Yeah.
Now, if they're going to treat you, the son of, somebody that is revered in the company, what does that say about how they're treating everybody else at the company?
Agreed. And I'm not going to spoil any surprise. I'm going to kind of make sure when it's a sure thing. But, yeah, the company I'm going to be going to work for, really, really fucking good company. I actually know people there quite intimately, and I'm excited for that to start. But it also, and that's the thing, man. And that's the one thing I'll note, though, with physical therapy. I can actually do, I've been doing squats on a Bosu ball I've been able to kind of get full functionality, full like depth back. You were actually right. I can now go deeper than just my knees with squats and stuff like that. I'm not all completely 100%. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like I'm like 85, 95, 85 to 90% there. And could I probably try to milk this maybe? Oh, well, another. I just no, I'm good. Like doctor, I told him, he's like, well, you sure? I said yes. I want to go back to work. I want to get my life back to normal. And I just, when you're dealing with something so
I think you should wait
toxic
till you're
and so negative, I
95%.
just don't want it in my life anymore.
I think you should wait till you hit 95% because if you aggravate that injury, you could be out twice as long.
Well, that's why I'm going to be taking a grace period for about 3 to 4 weeks.
And now that you've
Because
resigned, can you still get the physical therapy on the company's dime? Probably
they've
not,
already
right?
they've already paid for a certain amount of sessions, so yes.
Okay.
So they're obligated due to the Jones Act. But I mean, even then, bro, I have a gym membership. I kind of know what I'm doing, and in that regard, like I could follow that because there hasn't been much dynamic changes with that, and the people that are there have been like really nice. Yeah, it's I feel really close, and I just for me personally, I need to get this toxicity out of my life. I can't be dealing with a situation that's just so negative and so like overbearing, to the point where it's like it gets me so angry, very very angry, and I try not to be an angry motherfucker, but it's been difficult the past couple. It's been very difficult the fucking past by year and some change. So, but yeah, I mean that's my whole little rant.
Well,
Um,
I want to transition, Paul, because oh wait, I keep forgetting a certain group of people have hijacked that word. I want to segue into a conversation. Um, you and I, we came together in this project, not in the locker room for you guys watching the locker room, but here on the Talking Shit podcast, right?
mm,
We came together because I'm one of the few people that you've known over a certain amount of time that can have conversations with you that are civil, and we can just be completely on opposite sides of the spectrum.
right.
And one of the things we were that we were pretty much opposed on was economics in the United States, specifically the employer-employee relationship, and how the American worker and their labor are treated by employers. Now, you and I grew up hearing about pulling yourself up by bootstraps, and if you work really, really hard, you'll be a multimillionaire one day.
Yeah.
And, from my vantage point, I remember, the first jobs that I had, even when I was in sales, when I worked in shipping, every time I got one of those jobs, Cap, I was always very proud to put on the uniform.
Yeah.
And then I had the experience of what it was like living inside of the uniform. And then the quiet quitting mindset hit me to the point where I realized it didn't matter what sector it didn't matter what part of the private sector I was in. Or even if I did a job where I was a volunteer, like a community organization, and the thing that I came away with after a lot of experience, because it's not like I'm just some bleeding heart liberal with no job experience. Like I've been hurt on the job. I've had some pretty bad injuries. I've had some psychological problems that form from a hostile work environment, and being woefully underpaid and underscheduled. And I just, through experience, I realized that it doesn't pay to be a company man. That
I don't disagree at this point.
yeah, and you and I, we had like these kinds of like debates, especially again, like we come from different places and we learn different lessons, right? But I just you know I love this guy, yo. I fucking love this guy.
What a dick.
I just I'm fucked up, man.
Done, bro.
We try to keep the language clean on the stream, and
Yo.
then, but I gotta ask you, because like I've had so many red pill moments working, and you just kind of figure out that as a matter of fact, I was just talking to one of my clients about this, and he was saying that Costco has they're revered for how well they treat their employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if this stat is true, but if this guy is saying this, from a businessman's point of view, there might be some validity to it. That these employees, they get, benefits, and they get, 17 or $20 an hour or whatever it is, right? At Costco.
Right.
You said that on average, every employee in the company is accounted for something like $750,000. Each employee is responsible for the revenue of the company every year. $750,000. It's like $740,000 each employee is responsible for bringing to the company.
That's crazy.
So you want to tell me $20 an hour and a T-shirt and a pen, and maybe you get to see the doctor if you get a cold? Are you going to you're telling me that is fair compensation when on average your employees bring value to the company to the tune of $750,000, almost $750,000 of value to the company per employee, and you think $20 and a cough drop is fair? Wow, but
Well, how good is that cough drop, though, to be fair? Like, what
Hey,
flavor,
man.
what brand? If it's Halls, maybe. But if it's, like, Luden's, I'm not for sure.
I don't know, man. They sipping on some scissor.
I mean, I agree what you're saying to an extent. I understand
To an
that
extent,
you can't...
yeah.
You can't give, like... You can't give a $750K to each employee, right? That's unreasonable.
No, but I'm saying like $30 an hour is not fair.
No, listen, dude. In certain cities, like where you live, guys should minimum wage should be like 40, 50 an hour with how expensive it is to live there. But
You know what's really messed up, Cap?
Yeah.
To rent an apartment in Manhattan at the beginning of 2022, do you know what the minimum salary on average that you had to have?
Probably like 120.
$160,000.
Jesus
And this is
Christ.
when the median rent was like 39 to like 4,400 a month.
Bro.
We're at $5,700 a month on average in Manhattan right now.
Bro, you guys need to like chill. Well, I mean, and this is a whole different conversation we actually should make a later video about, but that these corporations are buying up these buildings and kind of like artificially raising rents.
Yeah. They also
But I
like
think-
buying up houses too to take them off the sale market, and
Yeah.
it drives up the cost of housing so that people have to stay in the rentals, and that drives up the cost of the rentals. It's
So-
really messed up.
You know, to answer your question, if I've been kind of like red pilled or something in that manner, yeah, to a degree, actually,
Yeah.
yes. It was an eye-opening experience. This company, I was told nothing but positive things, and you know, for 40 years, my family was affiliated with this company. So, yes, I'm like, okay, like this is good, this is great. And some of it might be because a few people passed away in the administration during the pandemic, due to the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, after the way I was treated, and lies spread about me, falsehoods, and a ridiculous ultimatum that they had to rescind because it turned out none of the information they tried to offer that for was actually factual. So, yeah, I think, yeah, it's changed a lot. I think as an employee, and especially one that's out on injury, I was actually kind of surprised how little support you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably more due to me not really being injured at work before, and how poorly they can kind of take care of you. And like some people might argue, like, oh, well, there's some people that abuse the system. Yes, and that's every system.
Very,
There's
very
gonna be
few
some
people,
bad
though.
eggs, but there's just a lot of people, like myself included, that just want to get healthy, want their bills taken care of, so they can go back to work. Because like I said, man, just being incapable to move, sleep, like anything, like comfortably, like it's not a life of existence you enjoy.
You know what's funny that you say that, Cap? You want to hear something really crazy?
Mm.
So you know that the writers and the actors are on strike right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that the Hollywood, the Hollywood, like the production studios and all of that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they've already lost more revenue. They've already lost more money that it would have cost to actually sign a fair contract to give to the actors and the writers. They've already lost more money than it would have cost them to sign the contract before the strike.
That's crazy.
Hollywood is losing a metric fuck ton of money right now. And if they would have just signed the contract, they would have actually come out ahead of where they are right now. And like when we look at your situation, if they would have supported you from the very beginning, you would have been back to work last November, December, January.
If they actually helped me out, it would have probably been around like February. Yeah, February, March.
Yeah.
I would have been back.
Because the injury happened in July, right?
Yep. And then it's about, but it would have probably taken time. To be fair, like we tried physical therapy, right? It takes about 6 months for this. It's gonna take 6 months since I've been hurt to go back to work.
Right.
So
if it would go back to July and they would have got you on the surgeon's under the surgeon's knife in July,
yeah,
you could have been back to work in January.
yeah,
And with the way that you healed and you went faster than the prescribed time, you could have been back to work in November or January, and they could have had your services for much cheaper because they wouldn't have had to continue to pay out workers' compensation on somebody who's not working all the way through halfway through 2023. And they would have had the benefit of your services if they weren't thinking so short-sighted.
Yeah,
but they wanted to think about the different ways that they could fuck you in the ass instead of providing support to get you back to work. And again, this is why I work for myself now. And the company that I do work for, is pretty autonomous.
Yeah.
Right? You take on the assignments that you can take on, and you do it that way. Why? Because I learned through the hard way that nobody cares about you. Least of all, the companies that depend on you for revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, just me overall, I understand because I'm seeing this in the comment section. I understand that like companies got to make money, right? There's that portion, and it's not 1A 1B. Like, oh well, we made this much money. There's cost. There's other administration fees. There's like licensing and all that stuff, right? But so I can kind of understand where you're coming from to an extent, but I think workers can definitely get a little bit more money than they're getting now. I don't think that's really crazy to say. As for my situation, yeah, I mean, I would have been back at work happy and healthy. I mean, I don't like sounding like this, but when you make a six-figure job, right? Right? When you're six figures with overtime and everything, right? What do you think I'd rather do? Would you rather think I want to be around poverty level or below poverty level on this Jones Act, or actually make 6 figures a year?
Well, I put it to you like this. You didn't even need to ask that question because you worked on a fucking tugboat.
Yeah.
Who the fuck does that for fun? What kind of lazy person says, I want to get on a dirty ass boat? I didn't want to say anything specific to your situation. I was about to start roasting one of your coworkers.
Yeah.
Hashtag overweight. I'm
deceased.
Who the fuck wants to spend 2 weeks of their life away from their wife in a metal box? Because that's basically what you slept in. It's like this metal box. Like,
yeah,
who does that? What kind of lazy person who wants to sit up living on welfare? Who takes a job like that?
No, I mean, it's...
How many times did you take off from work in the years since before the injury?
0.
Exactly. So
I actually used to work over a lot.
Yeah.
That's a fun, because actually you remember there'd be times we schedule a show like, dude, my shift is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I would stay on for 3 weeks, sometimes
another
6 weeks
week
at a time.
Yep.
Where I'd be gone.
Yep.
I'd be gone for like a month and a half, and like it's great money. I'm not trying to complain in that aspect, but nobody wants to work for like 6 weeks straight. Nobody wants to go do that shit. So, I'm done. That's done. So, but
oh man, see, headphone dog. That's why you should subscribe to the Talking Shit podcast, because we do this type of shit. Well, we were doing this shit live on Wednesdays at 11. We every week talking that shit,
But I think I'll wrap it up here. We can probably go live here again in a minute. Just kind of want to wrap this up because I don't know if I'll edit this or chop this up or whatever. But I know it's live. But
yeah, I just wanted to have the social discussion on the back end. You know what I mean? We're gonna bring more content to you guys on the locker room. He's already starting to do previews of the 2023-2024 season in NHL.
Yep.
So look out for that. Of course, he wants to start with the Boston Bruins because he's a cocksucker. He always wants to talk about his team, because
up, man. He's a Rangers fan. He's just a hater. But
look at that dirty ass hat. He doesn't even want to wear
a lot of things. I'm kind of in the process of editing a few videos.
He doesn't even want to wear his new Boston Bruins hat. He wants to wear that old shit.
I mean, shit, bro. It's fresh, but
the second team that he's gonna put something out on is his New York Rangers. Out of respect for me and Fajardo.
Yep.
Here. I couldn't even get the word Rangers out of my mouth. I was already getting roasted. On the Talking Shit podcast, we are stacking up a bunch of different topics, a bunch of crazy things that are going on in society that we're going to go live on and bring some more videos to. You're going to get more solo content from me. You're going to start getting more fitness content as well. So, whether it's just me and Kat or just me, you're going to start getting...
me by myself, too, because I'm actually got something cooking. So
yeah, we got some really cool things on the docket. It's been a really slow summer. I've been focusing more on myself and getting my physical fitness right, getting my mental right. Spending more time with the ladies, going to baseball games, getting more clients because I live in New York City.
Yeah.
I just reported my passport lost to get a new one.
That's rough.
So.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we both like. Yeah. So. Also, yeah, this is a seditionless version of be safe out there in the real world, right?
Yeah. I think we have a lot of content on deck for either here at the Locker Room or the Talking Shit podcast. I don't even like beer like that, so that's funny as fuck.
Exactly.
But I think when we kind of go, we have a lot of content on docket. We're going to be doing live streams. We're also going to be doing a lot of stuff. I have a lot of things planned. And yeah, man, I'm kind of excited for the future and just getting this dead weight off my shoulders, this burden off me, and just kind of having a completely fresh start elsewhere. I can't be happier, honestly. It just feels good.
When you started the stream, Cap, I gotta say, the first, the legal eagle in my mind had sirens blaring, but I thought at this point it's like, if it hurts your lawsuit or, if they want to claim some bullshit and try to countersue you because of this stream or whatever, would it be worth it to finally have that cathartic release of, I can finally, speak my mind and, yeah.
I mean, what are they going to countersue me on? All the facts?
Well, you already see that they keep putting their own fucking foot in their mouths, right?
Yeah. I mean... You've got internet streaming. I think for me, I didn't say anything that's not correct.
Yeah.
Everything I'm based in facts. So if they ever want to do that, they can go ahead. But I don't. Nothing of fruition is going to happen there. And if it does, I mean, they can dig their own grave.
Oh, one more production note. Jimmy Dean, by the way, we miss you on the MMA streams. And that's a segue to guys. 12 noon Eastern time. UFC Fight Night. All right. I think it's also. I think it's like in Europe or some shit. It will be 12 p.m. Eastern. You guys that are on the hockey side of things, if you want to watch some real fights instead of guys trying to fight on skates, check us out on the Talking Shit podcast. I think there's a link somewhere.
There's a link. There's a link down
Yeah.
below in my description.
Yeah, there's a link down below. Definitely come check us out. We oh, okay. Yeah, I think they lost a fight. So yeah, 12:30 Eastern, Eastern Daylight Time, because it's still technically summer. If you guys want to watch some fights, come check us out. We watch the fights all together. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, Lavaris is probably going to be there. William Guillet probably going to be there. Who else? Who else do we? Jay Ludy, thank you. So yeah, Melted Mind Media, of course, 3M. So we get some of these guys to come in and hang out with us, and the guys that were there when I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning streaming. Thank you for supporting the platform, for real, for real.
Well, I think we'll call it a fucking stream. I appreciate everyone coming through. Actually, I was way more than I was expecting. And I'm just excited for the future and expect a ton of more content for both channels. So, anything else you guys say?
I was going to say something very inappropriate.
Yeah.
With the name of your former employer, but I'm not going to do that because I'm going to practice restraint today so I can go eat breakfast, take a nap.
I appreciate you. Thank you guys for the support. Catch you later.